So how does that relate to zero trust? Talking a lot about remote working. You're probably thinking, yeah, I'm not signed up for remote working. I'm signed up to find out about zero trust. But hopefully you can see how that goes hand in hand. The diagram on the left shows this walled garden approach, a castle approach, a moat approach, whichever way you wanted to look at this. But ultimately you've got physical defences around a traditional network. So you've got a boundary around how people can get into your offices, how people can get into your server rooms, how people can log on with a smart card, how people can access passwords and identities. Previously, you had a building or you had a site that it was quite easy to uphold these security controls, and that kept attackers and their approach is quite traditional. It's focused on networks. It's focused on trying to breach the front door down. It's trying to storm the ramparts of the castle. It's trying to use traditional approaches, which have evolved over years, but ultimately we were quite comfortable with defending against. We know that you're going to try and come through my firewall. I've got a firewall. I've got defense in depth. I've got all the bells and whistles. I've got IDS and all sorts of things on there. So I'm quite safe in the knowledge that that's the way you're going to try and get in, and I've got that well guarded. But all of this has changed because of the way that assets are now accessing resources over networks. It's you bring your own devices. So suddenly I'm at home and I'm using my family PC because I haven't got a laptop or a corporate device. Or I'm working from home, but I'm using a corporate device, but it's not talking to Active Directory. It's not being able to synchronize my passwords and things like that, or even get updates. I haven't got a good model about lifecycle management from endpoint devices. I expect them to be in the office every now and then to synchronize and get updates. I don't expect them to be off at home for the next year and a half. No one could have planned for that. And mobility of users, and more the adoption of SaaS services. So even things like Microsoft 365 services, products and services, or even going into third-party services such as Sage or HR software, other pieces of third-party software that develop trust or need to gain access to certain resources, whether that's account-based or API-based. There's still a level of trust that needs to be developed at that point to provide access to data and resources that are traditionally kept within your walled garden. And that's led to attackers shifting the way that they approach vulnerability and attacking your environment to try and get access to that data. So now that instead of focusing on networks, they're focusing on identities. They're focusing on Sean O'Brien. Okay, what does Sean like? Sean likes football. Sean likes this. So okay, we can try and get his identity. That's what they're trying to get. They're trying to look at my identity. There's different techniques they can look at, things like phishing and credential theft. And this change in tactic has led to security teams being often overwhelmed, but it's a change of skill sets. But traditionally they're network engineers. They've got network operation centers and things like that are sitting there looking at network security vulnerabilities. Now we're shifting that to identity, and it's a different skill set. It's understanding about trust and relationships between different identities and how that trust is enforced. So security teams and practice are going through an evolution, much like the attackers have gone through, to make sure that we are fit to protect your assets, your data from these attackers that are shifting almost daily at this point. So reinforcing Microsoft's commitment in this environment. So we've got a quote there from the main man, Satya. I'll read it out for you actually. So as the world continues to change, the business requirements evolve. Some things are consistent, but customers' demand for security and privacy. We believe that every customer deserves a trustworthy cloud experience. We're committed to delivering that experience in the cloud. So ultimately, for me, as a Microsoft partner and a Microsoft customer, that underlines the commitment from them as an organization. So Microsoft spend $1 billion every year in cybersecurity. That is a large investment. No other organization can make that level of investment. There's a handful of organizations that could do that, but Microsoft are the only one that do that and talk about it. They have 3,500 full-time employed security professionals in their various facilities around the world. They have a large area in Israel, in Tel Aviv, where a lot of these security professionals sit, and they have whichever hat they wear. They are full-time security professionals, and they are full-time defending and attacking the platform. So the cloud platforms, the tooling that we use as end customers. So they have people acting as defenders, sitting there, making sure the lights are on, looking for vulnerabilities, making sure we're defending, the environments, we're monitoring, we're keeping on top of things, we're creating patches and vulnerability, fixes and things like that. But then they've also got the people that are trying to attack the platform, to find these vulnerabilities before other people will find these vulnerabilities. So it's, you can imagine that the environment is kind of like a war game. You've got the kind of different hatted actors within the environment playing games with each other, but ultimately the games deliver real benefits for us as a customer. So we know as Microsoft customers and partners that there are levels of cybersecurity protection that is invested in the platform from their commitments, and that gives me a warm fuzzy feeling when it comes to looking after my data anyway, and looking after my organization's data, and when I'm implementing solutions for Cloud Direct customers, it gives me confidence that what we're doing is will give my end customer that protection as well. So there's lots more information on that as well in the Microsoft Trust Center. So it's worth a quick search on your search engine, and you'll be able to find that quite easily. And there's lots of information about how Microsoft goes to protect your data and your resources that they manage for you in the cloud platform. So the Zero Trust framework itself, so we're going to go into a bit more detail in a minute, but just want to kind of call upon that as a concept before we go into any real depth. So the tagline, never trust, always verify, I think kind of sums this up really nicely. It's the inherent trust that we get from being in a building. Just because I've got Sean's badge on and I walk in and I enter my password doesn't mean that I always need access to sensitive HR information, or the Colonel's secret recipe that is locked away in a file share somewhere, or access to commercial information from some of our accounts in the sales platform. All of this data shouldn't inherently be given to me just because I'm a sysadmin, or because I've got elevated privileges as a manager or something like that. I need to verify, I need to demonstrate that, well, okay, just because you've got that, why do you need this? Let's start challenging that trust model more and more. And the way that we do that is by breaking that down into these three pillars. We'll go into a lot more detail, don't worry. So dealing with identities. Am I Sean? You said you are, so I'm going to poke and prod you to find out that you still are Sean. At 9 o'clock in the morning you probably are, but if you're logging in from a different IP address or a different device, okay, or you're trying to access certain data at a different time of day, okay, I'm just going to prompt you for a little reminder to make sure you are Sean. Fantastic. Okay, you are. Let's crack on. Here's access. You can do your job. The same for devices, applications, data, the infrastructure components, and network. They all tied together to give this overarching model for Zero Trust. And there's some core tenets to this pillared approach as well, which is let's assume that there is a breach of activities. Let's make sure that we explicitly verify what it is that we're trying to access. And let's always work on that least privileged access model as well, which is something that isn't new to Zero Trust, isn't new to Microsoft. It's an approach security professionals have been using for years and years. Let's always make sure that we reinforce that, utilize the tools that are in place for that, and that least privileged access should always be at the forefront of our decisions that we make. That goes hand in hand with the maturity model that Microsoft have defined, and we align ourselves to as an expert partner. So it's understanding where you sit as an organization at this point. So we've kind of got three levels. We've got the traditional, advanced, and optimal, but ultimately it's about understanding where you are and where you need to get to. So okay, at the moment I'm sat, my identity model may be advanced because I've got multi-factor authentication and conditional access, but some of my device security could be traditional because I haven't got endpoint automation of endpoint protection. I haven't got lots of policies being pushed out via Azure Active Directory, domain services, and things like that. I'm dependent on on-premise connectivity. So I need to make changes within there. And understanding where you are in this maturity model will help identify where your organization needs to make changes in line with these core pillars, and where we can then start looking at this whole Zero Trust concept around the entire organization as a whole, and lead you to this nirvana, which is that optimal, nice blue target there in the graphic. We all want to be there. vastly. It's all dependent on where you are as an organisation, and where you are within that maturity model as well.